Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a Rolling Stones in the Spotlight. My name's Dan. I'm your host and interviewer tonight. Got a great guest tonight, but before we bring them on, I just want to give a little shout out to a couple of sponsors. First sponsor is Liquorland Wigram, and that's your friendly neighbourhood liquor specialist. And then also Monster Music, who are teaching tomorrow's rock stars today. So that's our two sponsors here at a Rolling Stone. Now, wonderful guest here tonight. I had the privilege of going out and visiting him at his beautiful studio. I'd like to introduce you. I'm sure many of you already know him, Mr. Arnie van Bussel. Woo! Have a seat.
Better turn this off.
Oh, yeah.
Turn this blessed thing off. Forgot to do it. There it is. It's off.
It's good. Everyone else sorted? Hey, I was just talking to you before about Night Shift Studios. It's your home base.
Yep.
Before we go back into ancient history and where you're from and everything like that, where did the name Night Shift Studio come from?
Well, originally I had a succession of bands over time, and just prior to setting up the studio, we had this sort of acid rock band.
Oh yeah.
It was called originally Van Berg's Night Shift, because one of the bass players' name was Bergen, and we were called Van Bussel, so Van Berg, and we all worked at night. So
that's perfect.
So, and then it was shortened, of course, and we started playing a sort of a range of pretty heavy rock covers. Didn't last long. We had a lot of fun. I think it lasted about 6 months.
Oh yeah.
And then the rot set in, of course, the usual. That's what happens with Christchurch bands. Something happens. So then you replace one player, and then you replace another player, and it keeps going. And in the end, my brother said, "That's it, I'm tired of this." And it came to an end. And around the same time, I was starting my recording activity, so I just continued the name on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. And for those that have been following in the Spotlight, we've had a couple of guests along so far, and it's funny how the Christchurch scene, everyone knows everyone, everyone's worked with everyone. So, of course, we've had Charlie Jemmett and Al Park. You've had connections with both of them over the years.
It's a small town, but it's always been a very musical town. I first became aware of that when I was learning how to play guitar. My first tutor, or my only tutor, was a man whose name was Tommy Kahi, a lovely Maori fella, and man, he could play that guitar.
Where were you doing your lessons with him?
My parents bought me a guitar when I was 13 from Charlie.
From Charlie, you go. Connection one.
For 39 and sixpence. I still have that guitar.
Oh, brilliant.
That's a piece of... anyway. But I still have the guitar. It's a funny looking thing. It's a sort of a flamenco guitar with all sorts of painting on the front of it. And if you read through the hole on the inside, it says, "Guaranteed not to split." And it came with 4 free lessons at Tommy Kahi's guitar studio. And his little studio was ensconced in a building called Plimsoll's Building in Manchester Street. So we went up 2 flights of stairs to the 3rd floor, and there was a tiny little hallway just off the stairs, and across on the other side was a door, and it said Nick Nicholson on it. Nick Nicholson from the Nicotini Brass. And those of us that are old enough to remember that would remember the Nicotini Brass. I actually recorded them too.
Oh, yeah.
Later on. And then Tom had his on this side, and we'd sit and wait, and then after a while 3 people would emerge from their lesson and we'd go in. So there would be 3 of us.
Oh, at the same time.
Right, 3 at a time, and Tom would be sitting in there with his desk and his bits and pieces and his guitar. And sometimes he'd be eating because he was in there from, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and he'd get hungry. So he'd make us play our tunes while he was having his chop suey. The things you remember. Yeah.
So where are you actually from? Where were you born?
I was born in a tiny little village just east of a larger town called Eindhoven, or as we say in Holland, Eindhoven. It's still there, the village is still there. Of course, now it's ring fenced by a whole bunch of apartment blocks and whatnot. And just next door to that, there's this big forest. So I was born, and the building in which I was born is still there. You can actually see it on Google Map. I was born in my grandfather's house because my mother at the time and my parents, they couldn't afford a house. They were staying with the parents. And it wasn't until they started having children that they could apply for government assistance to get a house in a row, which we did eventually. Yeah, so that's where I was born.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how old were you when you came out to New Zealand?
My parents, my father decided that he'd had enough of the struggle over there, and he and my mother decided to pull up their roots and leave in 1959. So I would have been 5 or 6 years old at the time. I was born in 53, and they left in 59. So I was 6 years old when they left.
Do you remember much of growing up there?
Yeah, when you're a kid, you remember some things. I remember the boat that we came on. It was called the Johannes van onze Barneveld. That's a Dutch name for you. It was a typical cruise liner of the day, a couple of stacks on the top. Things you remember, the enormous storm in the Red Sea. There was a storm, and the waves, and the whole ship smelt of a certain substance. I was one of the few that wasn't seasick. I remember that much. Just little things. We stopped at Sydney, and I remember Wellington, and then you come along on the ferry. There was a ferry from Wellington through. So just fleeting images, basically. Yeah.
Okay, and you came out with some siblings, or did
Yes, I had 2 brothers. My brother Peter, who was 4, and my brother Paul, who was 2. We nearly lost him on the trip. He disappeared one day, and we couldn't find him. And they found him sitting at the side of the boat with his legs over the side. 2 years old.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so we could have lost him. My goodness. Yeah. Yeah, just little things. You just remember stuff. I do have pretty clear memories beyond that time. My parents struggled to find a house. We stayed with another Dutch family when we first arrived.
Was this Christchurch?
Yes.
Yeah, straight to Christchurch.
Yes, and they were lovely people. Van Hout was their name. You might remember a chap called Ronnie Van Hout. Well, we stayed with his family when we first arrived. Ronnie Van Hout's a fairly famous New Zealand artist now. He's also a musician. He works with I've recorded him in connection with a group called Into the Void.
Oh, there was the documentary about them.
Oh, really?
Was doing
They're pretty wacky.
Oh, yeah.
Then we couldn't find a house down there. My father found employment in Ashburton. He was working for the Ashford Forest woolen mill as their maintenance guy. My father was an engineer, and he was a very skilled engineer. Actually, he was a craftsman in his own right. And so we stayed there for some time until my father had a disagreement with management. I could tell that story, but...
why not? It's a good
okay. Well, it's the typical immigrant thing. The boss tried to strong-arm my father. Some girls came who they thought they were going to hire for clerical skills, and they just said, "Oh, those 2 rooms at the front of your house, that's for the girls." And parents said, "Yeah, that's fine," until they started cavorting.
Oh dear.
Some of the local lads. in the family home, and my father took exception to that, took it to the boss, and the boss said, "You will do what you're told because you're a Dutch plonker." And, well, you don't say things like that to my dad. So we were gone immediately. He said, "That's it." So then we were camped with another Dutch family, the De Witts in Ashburton. They were a nice family too. And my father would commute to Christchurch every day looking for a job on his German motorcycle that he had brought with him. He came off it a few times in the ice on the road. Eventually he found another job in Christchurch, and our first home was in Barrington Street. It was a rental. And then Conway Street. And then once we'd got going a little bit, my parents managed to get a mortgage on a little house in a little street called Somerset. It was called Somerset Street back then, not far from Gerald Street and Spencer Street. Now that name might ring a bell to some people because Spencer Street has the venue where Ray Columbus used to perform. The hall, the school hall there. So that was the school that we were attending at the time.
Was that sort of around Brougham Street? Or
yeah, it's Brougham Street now. The Gerald Street was converted into Brougham Street.
That's right, yeah.
But it was a small back road at the time because the main road at the time was the Lincoln Road, of course. And so we used to walk to school from Somerset Street. Now it's called Somerset Crescent because it goes around. And so, yeah, we'd walk to school to, I think it was called St. Teresa's Convent. Yeah. Sacred Heart Convent. Yeah, that rings a bell. Sacred Heart Convent, that's what it was called. Good memory. He's got a better memory than me. Yes, nuns. We were taught by nuns. And we did that until, of course, we had to go to high school and that. My parents were a little late signing us up to St. Bede's, which would have been preferred option back then. But no, we missed that one and ended up at Xavier College, which was still is. It's called Marion College these days, and it was on Morehouse Ave, directly across from that beautiful place, the Gas Company. And every day you get a variety of smells from across the road. You know, the pungent, what is that? Baked beans. You know, something. It would smell rank most days. God almighty. Yeah, I think they had to dig 3 stories down when they finally dismantled that plant. There was that much corruption there, and we were right across the road. And that's, of course, where the music sort of started to kick in. We became the college house band, you might say, me and my brothers, because by that stage I'd been attending Tommy's classes for about 3 years, and we started to play together.
Was there much other sort of music in your family coming up, like your parents?
Well, you know, all Dutch people sing at parties, of course, and my father played the mouth harp, the harmonica as it's called, and he could play it quite well. My mum could sing quite well. So there was music there, but the rot really set in when they bought their eldest son a flippin' guitar. That led on. So the 3 that were studying at Tom's studio, I still remember them. There was me, Robbie Gray, and Billy White, the 3 of us. He would teach us to read the dots on the page, and we would play 3-part guitar harmony, and while he strummed. And eventually, when we were good enough, he asked from one of the local drum tutors to bring a drummer guy in. Yeah. And we needed a bass player, so I said to my brother, "Pete, do you want to play bass for us?" He said, "I can't play bass." He said, "Well, give it a shot." And it was okay, considering, because he had a few issues from his birth. He suffered. When he was 2 years old, he got meningitis, and back then it nearly killed people. It still kills people. We just lost Jeff Beck to meningitis, believe it or not. And it affected his coordination, and his hearing. But he did okay. And before long, we had a little 5-piece band playing all sorts of funny little tunes like gypsy taps, Boston two-steps, foxtrots, waltzes, you name it.
So wasn't the pop music just yet?
It wasn't pop, not yet, no. And then sometime later, Tommy said to me, listen, I think you've learned about as much as I could teach you. You know, what you have to do now is you have to go out and play some gigs. And I'd had a taste of it already because I'd seen his band perform. Tommy was in a group called the Kahi Brothers. And so there was the three of them. It was a bit like our family, the three boys. So there was Tommy on rhythm guitar, Hawaiian steel, his brother Mark, who was a wonderful guitar player, unbelievable guitar player. He was so good that he studied under Segovia in Spain. That's how good he was. And Alec, the other guy, like my brother Pete, on bass.
Yeah.
Right, and the three of them had this band, and they would bring in a drummer from the drum school, usually the tutor. And I was able to go along to some of their performances. Comey said, you want to come and watch? Yeah, sure, I'll come along. And I was blown away. They were amazing, those dudes. They could play anything. They were jazz, rock and roll. They could play it. It was just unbelievable to watch. Anyway, I remember one particular lesson. I was at the studio, and Tommy said, what are you doing Saturday night? And I remember saying, I remember this, I'm 15. What do you think I'm doing? You know. So he said, you're playing in my band on Saturday night. What? What do you mean? Well, Mark's crook. You're going to play in his stead. Oh, shit. I can't play like Mark. You're kidding. He said, don't worry. He said, I'll just give you the charge and you just do the Maori strum and I'll do the rest. And that's what I did. And yeah, so that was my first real time on stage. And then, of course, we organised a few gigs for all of us, the five of us.
Yeah.
Tommy organised the first ones. And then we came to know a few other musicians. There was one chap, Peter Joyce, I'll never forget. He was this real whiz kid on the piano accordion. So we were like his backing group, you might say. Bit of that. And then, of course, we discovered pop music.
Yeah.
Because pop music was a big thing in the 60s in New Zealand. We had a broadcasting infrastructure in this country that promoted all kinds of rock and roll and singers, people like Ray Columbus and, there's a whole bunch of names, Ray, the other Ray, Eddie Lowe, all those, Ray Wolf, yeah, all those guys. And they were being promoted, of course, on shows on the television. We had a whole department in Wellington set up to video them and arrange their
country
songs.
guys as well too, wasn't it?
Country, not so much.
Later, maybe.
No, it was more pop and rock and roll.
Oh,
Yeah, the country's music was there, of course, but it wasn't mainstream, not really. It was popular, and you'd hear a bit of country on the radio, of course, but yeah, it was pretty simple back then. We only had one source. It was the New Zealand Broadcasting Corporation, or as we used to call it, the Broadcorping Castration. That was it, but they had one regional hub. Ours was on Sugarloaf, with a building downstairs somewhere, and Wellington and Auckland and Dunedin, and they had these funny little names, 4XO and 3ZB. And then after that, later, the television came through the same network, you might say. So they had to bring in new infrastructure, and of course, the first TVs we had were tiny little boxes with black and white screens. My father brought one with him from Europe because we were the first people in the street in Holland to have a TV.
Oh, wow.
Because he worked at Philips.
Oh, okay.
You see. So he brought his Philips TV with him, and so we were exposed through the radio stations primarily, and then later on when the television channels started, that all kinds of local, regional channels would start up, and with community interest shows. And the interesting thing that makes the difference about that compared to now is that then it was considered by all the people that worked there to be a service. And the community generally across the whole country paid in to that service, and that's how it was all constructed, right? And so the people that worked there were service, to the community. So, public interest was important. So news, community-focused shows, all sorts of things. That's I can't remember the name of the shows. My memory fails me, but there'd be a whole bunch of them. Shows, regional shows that were broadcast across the countryside. Some about farming.
Like a country calendar kind
Country
of thing.
calendar, yeah. Yeah.
Town and around.
yeah. And we had pop shows too. We had talent quests and Come On and all those things and Happening. Yeah, it just kept. He's the guy. He's the source. You're going to interview
next month.
Yeah, he'll be here next. So yeah, and sort of that's where the exposure came from.
Yeah.
And then every now and then something would slip in there from England mostly, occasionally from the States. That was a little different,
Yeah.
And I started to hear things like Fleetwood Mac, the early Fleetwood Mac, not the second generation and they were playing blues and rock, and then Zeppelin, and then Jimi Hendrix, and oh my God, Deep Purple, and I started listening to the Beatles, of course, and I started listening to this stuff, and I went, I'm home. That's me.
Yeah.
So my Jensen guitar went in the cupboard, and I bought another guitar off Charlie, a white Stratocaster, and I still have that instrument. Doesn't have much from the original that's still on it, and we started getting bigger amplifiers.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of it, of course, we had to make because you couldn't buy a lot of stuff back then. So my father, who was an engineer, would help us build speaker boxes, and we'd put Philips speakers in them, of course. But there were other brands that you could buy from Tricity House and David Reed Electronics. They had their own speakers. Anyway, we'd build these things, and then the amplifiers got bigger. And I was telling you about it before, yeah. We'd rehearse in one of the rooms in the house and blow the walls out. But I mean, we say that was loud, but it wasn't really compared to now. Your average bass bin now, 600 watts. We were, 30 was a lot. Parents would go out on a Friday night when we were rehearsing because it was too loud. One day I had a phone call from a guy called Roger. Roger Lowry was his name. Just out of the blue, rang me up and said, I hear you're in a rock band. I said, yeah. He said, you play pretty loud. I said, yeah, we do. Sometimes. Because you see, some of the gigs we played were just for dances and for 21sts and weddings and all that sort of stuff.
You
and you
play
can't
some
play
laid-back stuff.
You can't play loud at a wedding until they all get
Yeah.
drunk, and until all the grandparents leave. And I'm a grandparent myself now. Anyway, he said, yeah. He said, so you play loud? I said, yeah. What sort of amps you got? I said, sort of a bunch of stuff. We've got a 200 watt Holden. Oh yeah, what do you use that for? I said, that's the PA system. All right. Your guitar amps? I said, yeah, And he said, I'll tell you what. He said, I'm prepared to give you some new amplifiers. Oh yeah, what's the catch? He said, no catch. He said, I'm developing these new amplifiers. They're called solid state amplifiers, and we need some guinea pigs. He said, I want you to run them through their paces and destroy them. Yeah, no problem, mate. So I got a 50 watt stereo amp, 50 watts a side, so I could run 2 quads. My brother got a 200 watt solid state amplifier for his bass. I had to make a special speaker cabinet for him because the one that he had wasn't big enough. I built this big cabinet about like that. We got plenty of exercise carting those things around. And my brother Paul would have to play with logs to keep up with us because he was playing drums later on. My God. And, oh yeah, 300 watt solid state amplifier for the vocals. You know, we didn't have, like today, we got these PA systems. We didn't have that stuff, no. Those were column boxes, and we didn't have monitors even. People would say, how the hell can you sing? Because I'd get up on the stage and you couldn't hear a thing up there. All you could hear is the guitar and the drums, and the vocals are coming out there. And you can't put the speakers there because you get feedback. So eventually we tumbled, yeah, what if we put one there and fold it back, you know? And so we did that later on. But so yeah, we took those amplifiers and we blew them up regularly, because they were in the early stages of development at that point. It wasn't till later that it started getting good with Holden sound and the like. And then a new technology came in called MOSFET, which was a transistor that sounds like a valve.
Yeah.
And the first company that really pushed that was one called Perot in Napier. They built a whole series of MOSFET solid-state amplifiers. So you'd remember the band that was first peddling those. They were called Ragnarok. Yeah, so Pete Perot designed all of that stuff. And it wasn't all that good either. Well, it was early stage development. You see, now you can buy an amp. I kid you not. You can pick it up with your little finger. It's about that size, and it'll do 1,000 watts. No transformers. You can lift it with your little finger. It's all done with modern technology and switch mode power supplies and all sorts of stuff. But back then it was all big stuff with big transformers and heavy as hell, and it used to get hot. So yeah, and that's what led up to the rock music, and that went into the 70s.
Yep.
And that was that first group I was talking to you about. We were called Flood. The first name was actually Flood County, which is pretty lame. And we shared a couple of players, so we turned into a three-piece and just called it Flood. And we just had a lot of fun. It wasn't very good.
Did you play at pubs and that, or was it more...
Yeah. Well, there was all kinds of... Back then, it was a totally different scene to now, because all the halls that you see, they were all being utilised for various things. You know, 21st parties, all sorts of celebratory events. A friend of mine even used to organise gigs. He'd sell tickets, so he didn't have to have a liquor licence, and he'd just hire a hall, lay some food on, and people would bring plates, and away we'd go. We'd have a hell of a bash, playing a lot of loud music to people, you know. I think my first experience of really loud was out at Waikuku when I was a kid. There was a band playing in the hall there, and somebody opened the door, and oh my God, I couldn't believe how loud it was, you know. Well, we ended up doing that, you know, so yeah, so the first part of it, the first part of the journey for me was that this whole business of being in bands and playing music and learning how to play guitar. Yeah, we didn't have anything to learn off. There was no internet, there was no video, there was no nothing. You just have a record and you put the record on and you try and work out what they're doing. You can turn it down from 45 to 33. Yeah. Goes a bit slower, easier to work out. I think we even had another speed, didn't we? It was 45, 33, and there was another speed.
78.
Yeah, you could slow it all the way down and learn, oh, that's the notes he's playing, you know, and then speed it back up again and try and play it that fast. My God. You know, there were some very good players back in the day. Yeah.
So was it through the amplifiers that you kind of started moving towards the production and engineering side of things? Yeah.
Well, I was a sparky. My first job, believe it or not, was in a factory making U-bolts. That lasted about a week. There was a guy sitting next to me, actually. His job was to weld the head onto a bolt. There would be a bolt and a head, and he had friction welded on, and he did thousands of those. He used to smoke a lot. Not cigarettes. I lasted a week after 3,000 U-bolts. So my dad said, look, you've got to do something, because I'd had a year break. I went to university, didn't like it much because they the engineering school was not really my primary point of interest. I mean, I'm a left brain arts, languages kind of guy, and while I could do all the work, I wasn't interested in it, so I sort of thought, nah. So I had a break here, and then my dad said, you've got to do something. You've got to have some sort of skill. So I joined up with a company called Frank Miller and Company, and I believe there's a representative or an ex-representative of that very company sitting in the audience tonight. They were later called Aotea Electric. But Frank hired this long-haired lout as an apprentice. And my first long job was putting cables in at the Christchurch Hospital. I spent 3 years on the building site putting stuff in. And I decided too that just being a sparky wasn't good enough. I thought, I've got to do something more than this. I'm smarter than that. So I signed up for a course at the Polytechnic, electrotechnology. And by the time I was finished my trade hours, I had that under the belt as well. So that year, 1975, I got my NZCE, my trade certificate, and then you automatically get your advanced trade at the same time. It was so unusual. I got a special diploma from Sir Bob Stewart, who used to run PDL Industries. Apprentice of the Year.
Oh, brilliant.
So that stuff, you learn all about electronics, and it walks hand in hand with your musical, because it's all just wiring and cables and amplifiers and speaker bins, and of course I could build the speaker bins because my dad taught me how to do that. It wasn't too far off. We were building all our own gear. So all that gear that we were playing with, it was stuff we built ourselves, except for the amplifiers. But I started building those too eventually. And even mixing consoles. The first console I was using in my studio in 1980 was one I built myself. It's a work of art. It's got stainless steel all over the top of it.
How long did it take you to put that together?
Oh, probably a year.
Wow.
Yeah, it's still there somewhere. It's in. I'm informed that it's somewhere in the Flying Nun. They had a display at the library, museum a while ago, the Flying Nun thing, and it was there. I want to buy it back. I want to buy it back.
So the Canterbury Museum
I don't know where it is. I tried to contact the guy, but So anyway, and that had 10 channels.
Yeah.
And by that stage, mid-70s, I started messing with tape recorders and stuff, as you do. And if you're a creative musician, you're writing stuff. It might not be very good, but you're doing it. Yeah. All right. Well, I wrote my first song when I was in the first throes of learning that guitar. It was just 2 chords, but and then you got to try and capture it somehow. And my dad had a tape recorder, and it would do sound on sound. And then if you didn't realise, that's pretty limited. So eventually I bought a little 4-track from Europe, TIAC, and that's where it started, of course. And then you realise 4, God, what can you do with 4?
We need to go 8.
4's not enough. So then I bought an 8. It was a second-hand 8. Came all the way from a failed studio in Nelson through Neville Claughton's shop. And it didn't even have sides on it. I put stainless steel sides on it. My father loved stainless steel. He thought it was fantastic stuff because it doesn't corrode. It doesn't rust. He loved stainless steel.
Where was all this stuff going? Where was your studio at that point, or where were you?
My parents, by that stage, they'd bought a house in Opawa at Wilson's Road, a big rambling house. And the reason we could afford it was because of Mum's activities. My mother had a skill too that she brought from Europe with her. And I went to see this factory last year. This factory is still there. It now is a museum. It's a weaving museum.
Oh, okay.
And those old weaving machines, they keep them running. They're still working. She brought with her a skill called invisible mending. And she could take a suit, and back then everybody was smoking. So, oops, burn hole. She would lift the seam open, steal threads from the seam, and reweave the hole from behind. She could identify a weave. That was her skill. And she'd reweave it in reverse from behind. And then the only thing that would give away the patch was the fact that the threads from the seam were a little newer because they weren't exposed to light. And oh, there it is. Oh, yeah. But then she had ways and means of making it look older as well. So it was just invisible, and they called it invisible mending. And she was the only one in Christchurch that could do it. She tried a couple of times to teach it, but it required immense patience. I mean, all I can remember is Mum sitting in the corner of the living room with her bits and pieces in a chair, mending suits. And there would be guys coming with plastic bags with suits with holes in. She had a receipt book for every insurance company in New Zealand. She even, at one point, I remember this, she mended Sir Robert Muldoon's jacket. And I still have a copy of one of her little display of a piece of material that she's mended. I've got it somewhere at home that I show people. Yeah, so I thought I'd turn that off. Anyway, so that money that she earned was equivalent to what Dad was earning. So they could afford to buy a house in Wilson's Road, a big rambling place. It had about 7 bedrooms. And eventually the front part of that house became a recording studio. This is after the kids had all flown the coop. My parents went back to Europe for a bit, and I ended up in the house, and I converted the front part of it into the studio.
Yeah.
Wasn't ideal because you don't want a studio in your house. You're making all kinds of racket all the time. So, you know, what I've got now is much better. We made the big move in '86, right smack in the middle of Rogernomics. Don't get me started.
Oh no, I was about to say, here we go. We had a good chat about that, didn't we?
Rogernomics, they gave me bloody knighthood. Yeah, that was difficult. 1984, we bought a whole bunch of gear. We bought the first 16-track tape recorder, potentially in the South Island, 16-track Tascam unit, and a big console, 24 channels, made by Holden Sound Local, and it's Tascam 42 to do all the mastering on, and a tower full of bits and pieces and leads everywhere and microphones. Must have cost about 50 grand all up back then, which is a lot of money. And I spent the next few years trying to pay that off somehow. I was working 3 jobs, newly married, kids, you name it. So I worked myself to death, basically. Lost my health. Yeah. So not an easy journey. I try to convince young people not to take it.
They keep doing it though.
It's hard yards, hard yards. So we did a lot of work from 80 through to 86, and then it all turned to custard, and I ended up on a sickness benefit for a while. Found a good doctor in 1989, and he brought me back. His name is Nigel Gilchrist. I understand he's still working. And from 1990 through, I managed to get my life back together again and work my way out of the hole. We did a lot of good work in the 90s with that equipment. And then, of course, things change over time. So 2000, we went digital. And between 2000 and now, I've done the best work ever that I've ever done. The digital tools are amazing.
Yeah.
The 16-track was retired in 1999. So it did a good 20 years' work. You can't say that about a modern computer.
Yeah. They don't
Yeah, it still works, but nobody uses tape anymore because you can't edit with tape. Yeah, thousands and thousands and thousands of recording sessions over 45 years.
So if we go back to some of those early ones, sort of, would be early 80s?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was the early stuff was done on that home-built mixer with the little 8, and it was a little bit primitive.
Yeah.
I mean, I was still learning. It takes a good 10 years. People say, "Oh, 4 years is a long time, man," but you don't know what you're doing until you're 10 years in, and there's a lot of psychology involved. It's not just about the technical side, because now the technical side is, oh, ho-hum, I could do this blindfold. No, there's another component that most people don't understand. And if you read books by people like George Martin and the Stavros and a few of those dudes that work at Abbey Road, they wrote books about this stuff. There's a huge psychological component to recording, you know. There you go, you've got your recording studio, you've got all the right microphones and all the right gear, right? Doesn't matter a damn if the people that come in can't play. And early 80s, there was quite a bit of, I mean, especially with the indie side of it, you know, guitars all out of tune. And Arnie's thinking, oh, I need to tune that guitar. And they said, no, don't touch that guitar. I want it out of tune. You do? Oh, shit. Okay. What about that drum kit? No, leave it the way it is. Okay, righto. You're paying, I guess. And, you know, they weren't paying much. We were charging, what, $10 an hour? You know, that big single of the Flying Nun single, they say, recorded for $50. No, it was $50 for a whole night. I think they did about 8 songs.
There was Tally Ho, was it?
Yeah, it was indeed, yeah. Anyway, so the psychological part of it is to do with, okay, there's a whole bunch of strangers just come into your studio with all kinds of gear. You've got no idea how good they are. They might be amazing or really awful. So you set them up. That doesn't take long because I'm all set up, ready to go. All the mics are out. Set them up. Okay, let's go. Let's warm up, you know. And the first part of it is to make them comfortable. Yeah. That's the deal. That's more important than anything else. It's got to be warm. They've got to be able to hear themselves. They've got to feel comfortable with you. You know?
Did you know that from an early stage?
No, that's the thing. When you first start, you think, oh, no, what am I doing here? Yeah. You know? And, oh, that's crap. Jeez, how am I going to cope with this? You know? Or, you know, oh, shit, my gear's not good enough. Yeah. You know? Because sometimes... I did demos for the Narcs, and they were great, but my gear was crap, you know? So what do? But now, that's not a problem. I've got the gear, so people come in and you go, okay, all right, this is the way it's going to be. Okay. So it's either amazing and sublime, or it's at the other end, or anywhere in between. And I can tell you some great stories.
Please do.
Well, you know, I mean, I'll tell you a story about the best. There was a group called Blue Matter. They were playing the Blues Bar at the time. They're all jazz players, jazz fusion guys. They're all amazing. Arnie, what are you doing on Thursday afternoon? Oh, I don't know. What am I doing? Can we come in? Okay. Right, so they'd come in and set up, and all I had to do was record them. You know, I sort of knew these guys anyway, because you rub shoulders with them. I didn't have to worry too much about making them feel comfortable, and I've got to be onto it because these guys are good. They're not just good; they're friggin' amazing. Yeah. And I've still got those recordings on tape, and all I've got to do is balance it, mix it, and it's just pure gold. Never gets heard. Yeah. It's covers, you know, but excellent covers by people that we don't know, you know. And yet I play it to people and they go, wow, who's that? You know? Yeah. And it just sits on the shelf. There's other stuff that's not as good as that, and the people who are involved, I really struggle to make them comfortable because they can walk in with an attitude already, you know. So I've got to be their best mate, even though they don't like me much. And I'm perceived as this bald old guy who doesn't know anything. You know, that's the first perception. And so I've got to try and clue them into the fact that I do actually know something, and you've got to learn how to sort of manipulate the situation so that they feel comfortable that you're going to do as good a job as... Yeah. So you've got to try and be on their team somehow. Yeah. So that requires a psychological element that You can't. You learn it over time, you know. Yeah, come on, Bob. Let's do it, man. Come on. You know, Bob Scott, you know, sitting next to Bob Scott. Yeah. Come on, Bob. Come on. You know, you're just trying to make him comfy all the time. And Bob's okay. He's pretty chill, you know, but some of the others are not as chill. You know, so you learn, it's that psychological element. You learn how to chill people out. Make cups of tea. Tell stupid jokes, you know. Do you need anything? You know, just tell me what you need.
You were saying that the indie rock guys were some of the hardest work kind of guys, but the metal and the punk guys might have been at the other end. They might have been the nicest or the most.
Yeah, people would say to me, "Oh, those metalers, they must be hard working." No, because those boys take it out on their music. They do. Yeah. They get it all out. You know, and then when they're having their cup of coffee, they're so chill. Yeah. It's really cool. No, it's that there's a certain element of there are the punks but even the punks are nice. They're great. It's funny, you know, and we have lots of laughs. So yeah, there's that element of being on their side. You know, they understand after about half an hour that you're there for them. Yeah. That's important. And once they realise that, then they're open. You know, they'll say, "Can I have this? Can I have that?" Yeah. And then there's a third thing that you've got to be careful with. They'll make mistakes because they don't know what they're doing a lot of the time. You know, they're new to it. I mean, they can't learn all about recording just like that. And it's their one shot. They're only in there once or twice, so they haven't had time to learn anything, really.
Sometimes never been in a studio before.
So if they make a mistake, I say, "Listen, we could do it your way, but can I show you another way? You know, you don't have to take this way, but I'm telling you, my experience tells me that I should tell you this, and it behoves me to tell you this as part of your team." And that sort of brings them round, you know, sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes. But you know, but then they still make the choice, you know, and say, "Well, look, you know, it's your Christmas, you know, whatever it is you want to do, but if you do it my way, it'll sound better, you know. But okay, it's up to you." So you know, that gets tricky too, because sometimes they're making bad choices, and someone's got to take charge at some point. So see, like if you read about the Beatles when they came under the care of George Martin, they showed him respect because of his status with the company. And when you work in a tiny little shed in the middle of Christchurch, you don't have that. There's that level of authority and whatever it is, that gravitas. You don't have that. You're just this bald pillock in a shed, right? So, but you know, now, and I don't have too much of a problem with that because I've been at it for a long time and my name's out there. So it's, you know, but it does take a while to develop that. Yeah.
And you'll do it. You've done all sorts. It's not just rock bands and jazz, and you've recorded all sorts of stuff. It's a generic studio, so I'll take anything on, basically. Yeah. There's certain areas that really you don't see much. Jazz, you get a little bit of jazz, not much. The jazz guys are into live performance. Yeah. Not surprisingly, not a lot of country. I see quite a bit of country, but not as much as you'd think. And I think that's partly to do with the way that they structure their clubs, the country clubs. Oh, okay. If you do any recording, you're considered to be professional and you can't enter the competitions. It's crazy. Okay. Yeah, there's all these crazy rules out there. What else? Classical. You don't see a lot of classical. Why? Because they get it laid on at the town hall. Yeah. And I do get small ensembles that come in from time to time. Choirs? Yeah, I get a lot of choirs. Yeah. Biggest choir I ever recorded was 150. In your studio?
No, no. I had the plainsmen in there once, 33 of them.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, take all the gear out and put it in the back room.
Squeeze them in.
It's easy with a choir. 4 microphones.
Yeah. It's
a cappella, right? There's no instruments. A little bit harder with Samoan choirs because they usually have a backing. Oh, yeah. So there's one guy playing keyboards and then there's the choir master. So 2 tracks for the keyboard, and you might put some more on later, and that helps them keep their timing. And there's 30 of them.
in the room. I can't fit 150. So Reverend Fitty rang me up. He said, I want you to record the choir this year. I said, okay, how many are there? 150. Okay. So it's 4 microphones, some leads, take the computer, take a monitor, a headset, go down to their practice room. Yeah. And fortunately, they were rehearsing in a really nice space. Lots of carpet, lots of angles. It wasn't bouncing around in there like an old hall. Some of these old square boxes, they're dreadful. No, carpet everywhere. So I just had to set up 4 microphones, a couple of leads for the keyboard, one for the guitar, one for the soloist, recapture it all, take it home and post-produce it. You know, and, if it needed some more, like I discovered that part of the choir, the girls singing, there's bass, there's tenors, the top girls. What? Yeah, yep, the ones in the middle anyway, weren't singing loud enough. Doesn't matter how many times you record them, they're not loud enough. So I had to invite some of them back in to put some more in so I could balance it. Stuff like that. So it's just technical. And post-producing, it's not that hard because the choir is what it is, and they're good. All right, and it sounds amazing. Yeah. You put a little bit of verb on it, you know, set it all there, you know, and everybody, and then you release it on they want to do 1,000 CDs for their families, you know, they're going to sell them all. Yeah. They're sort of obliged to. Yeah. And then you get invited along to the CD party and they have a lot of fun in a hall, stuff like that. So yeah, we do choirs, motivational, people come into the booth and just talk. I had one today. Oh yeah. She spoke in tongues.
Bit of Foley.
Relaxation.
Yeah.
Motivational. There's a guy in here that records motivational stuff.
Yeah. And sound effects and Foley mix.
Yeah, we do a bit of that, bit of film. We're involved with some kids' vid clips in the 90s, early 2000s. You can still see them. They're called a dress-up box. We did 4 seats.
Felicity.
Sorry?
Was it Felicity, I think?
Felicity Williams, an outfit called Papageno.
Yep. We
did 4 seasons, 16 episodes. I was the guy doing all the sound. So you're recording the child singers, you're recording the hired singer that they bring in. Malcolm McNeil was one of them. The girl Clark from up north, Jackie. And they come in and they sing, and the kids sing with them. And Philip Norman does all the instruments with his Apple Mac computer and whatnot. And I put it all together. And Foley, sound effects. So wherever there's sound effects required, we make the sound effects and put it in with it and mix it all up, and it goes on telly. Yeah, it's a bit of a story. They didn't prepare themselves very well for overseas distribution because the formats were all changing. So late 90s, I saw it coming. I thought, uh-oh, they're only filming in 3/4 or whatever it's called, you know, standard TV formats. What's the new format? 92:14 or some bloody thing. Yeah, and they didn't have widescreen. And, of course, the new audio format's 5.1. Oh, yeah. So they didn't prepare for that. And when it came, I actually warned them with a letter. I said, this is coming, you need to do this. And they didn't. And so they failed to get the distribution, unfortunately, which is a shame. But apparently they still play those episodes occasionally. Yeah, anyway. So, yeah, there's a bit of that. Live sound, a little bit of that.
Yep.
You know, if you're good at what you do, you get asked. Or, Arnie, can you, do I have to? You know. Oh, no, there's the thing with live sound is it's a lot of hard work because you're humping all these bins and around, and it takes hours to set it all up, and you don't really get paid, not really. Even the hire guys struggle to get the money out of it, and they all turn into grumpy old men. The only guy I know who's not grumpy is Hugh Matheson. Good old Hugh. He runs a company called Huge, and he's such a nice guy. I like him.
But yeah, last time I saw Hugh, he was out at Hornby, and I didn't see a mixing panel anywhere. It's just this box and an iPod. I hate those things. No, because with a panel, if something goes wrong, you're there straight away, boom, boom. iPod, oh shit, that's too late already. So I don't know. There's some good things about digital and some not so good things about digital.
I saw you working your magic. I mean, you were getting stuff sent to you from the other side of the world, and
It happens. Don't get too much of that, but yeah.
But the fact you can.
I just got
turn
some
things
tracks
around,
from Mexico.
Yeah.
And then Roy was in from the Peddlers. They wanted him to sing on something in London.
Yeah.
Can I come down and record it at your... Sure, no problem. And then there was another girl who'd been recording in Nashville and her visa expired. And she came back and said, can you capture it for me? Yeah, sure. So, yeah, you do get a bit of work from... And every now and then to be somebody in the country who needs to quickly lay something down, they ring you up. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Sure. The funniest one, one of the funniest ones, this big tall guy rings me up. I didn't see him on the phone, of course. Hello, I am Hans from Switzerland. I want to come and record a song at your studio. And I'm going, okay, what's this for? Oh, my birthday. My girlfriend, she's having a birthday. Okay. Righto. So in comes this dude, and he's tall. He's 6'6", ginger hair, and he's carrying this tiny little wee button accordion. Right? Oh, yeah? Well, this will be fun. And sit him down on his chair, a couple of microphones, and away he went. And he was magnificent. I couldn't believe how good he was. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
All I had to do was record it once. He'd written this little bit of avant-garde jazz on his little button accordion for his girlfriend. Would you like me to take a photo of you playing this thing? He said, oh yeah, I want a photo as well. Click, And so MP3, photo, sent off to the girlfriend. He's happy.
That's awesome.
That's an example of someone from somewhere else.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how good he was.
Oh wow. Hey, just we'll round out the hour with just one last little sort of area, and that's you've done a bit of recording of your own music, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So was the album, was it the late 90s, I think? That you
98 finished it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a bit of trouble sleeping, so I used to stop working at 11 and carry on with my own stuff till about 3 in the morning, and then go to bed and wake up at 7. Managed to do a whole album of stuff. Funnily enough, I haven't done a lot of my own stuff. I spend most of my time working for other people, but I'm just about set to release number 2.
Did you hear that, folks?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. The thing is, if it's me, it's got to be really better than good. So each song takes about 40 flipping hours, because it's got to be better than good, so yeah.
Well, there was actually one other thing I just wanted to ask you about, and that was, I was looking through the list of services that you provide people, and one of them was, you're doing everything for these guys. Artwork. You would help with the album covers.
Yeah, well, so that goes right back to when I was a kid. I was very good at art.
Yeah.
And that runs in the family, by the way.
Okay.
My uncle, I've got paintings from my uncle, and he's an amazing oils painter, landscapes and the like. And so right from the word go, my parents would buy me art materials, and I've got screeds of paintings and pictures that I made when I was young. And later on, when you're working hard, you don't have a lot of time for that to kind of carry on. But I still have some stuff I've done recently. And if you've got those skills, the next step is someone says, oh, can you do that layout? Can you do this? Yeah, sure. And it was a little bit primitive, of course, in the early 80s. What have you got? A dot matrix printer and glue stick and a bits of coloured paper and a pair of scissors, and a guillotine, So you're putting it all together with And there's one guy I should mention, his name's Steve Gainsford, who unfortunately, poor old Steve's not with us anymore.
I came to know Steve in the 80s when I was doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And he was working at Xerox. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And not only, Steve's a muso, still is probably, blame his heart. And I knew that he had access to the best Xerox copiers down at Xerox. Steve, if I do this layout, can you stick it on the glass and hit copy, Sure. How much do I get for that? I said, whatever you want, mate. It's got to be cheaper than someone else doing it. Yeah, sure, mate. And it was good for the showroom machines too, for him to do that, because these things don't like sitting.
Yeah.
You've got to be something going through those copiers, otherwise they start playing up. So it was good for them in some ways too. They didn't realise that, of course. But, poor old Steve, he's a bit of a klutz when it comes to technical stuff. He'd get it wrong sometimes, Can we do those again, please? What? Well, you got it wrong. You've got it crooked on the glass. Come on, just put it on the glass and hit copy. Anyway, so yeah, we did that for 2 decades.
Yeah.
Because it got better and better, of course, because as the new machines came online, and now I use a little outfit in Brougham Street called Same Day Print. The printer's as long as from here to the mixing console. God, it's enormous. Mark, he's a muso as well.
Yeah.
He does me a cheap deal on. So yeah, and you learn. And as the computers got better, of course, we moved on. My first computer was an Atari. That, believe it or not, permitted me to do some artwork on it.
Oh, wow, okay.
And the dot matrix printer. So we'd dot matrix print little stickers for the cassettes. You could buy sheets of these stickers from Direct Imports New Zealand, because they would sell me the cassettes.
Yeah.
So you'd print them. And then later on, I got one of those photo stylus ones from one of the different companies. So you got Brother, you got Canon, Epson. I think Epson was the photo stylus colour. And again, it was a bit primitive, but you get by. So some of the early artwork, you look at it and go, oh, God. But now, and of course we've moved away from paper now, because now it's all up online.
Yeah.
But you still need a layout, so you can do that with Photoshop. And Photoshop's got better and better over time, but I'm still using Photoshop 7, believe it or not, yeah. So yeah, it comes hand in hand with being an artist, it's easy enough, Some of the best artwork actually is derived from members of bands who are also gifted.
Yeah.
Because music and art walk hand in hand.
Oh, totally.
They do.
Yeah.
The same.
Like Ronnie.
Yeah, Ronnie. Good example.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Hey, I think that's been a real good hour. I wonder if there's anyone out there with a question, perhaps. There might be a microphone somewhere if anyone's got. Here we go. Here's Mike with a microphone for. Do you got a question or two?
Oh, yeah. Arnie, the sales of CDs seems to have, to some extent, dried up as far as I can tell.
yes.
What's your advice for someone like me that can get about 1,000 views on a YouTube clip, that one of my best ones? I'm not going to make any money on any of those sites, probably. Is there any point in me trying to sell CDs or anything like that, other than like just playing live, to make money?
Well, this is a global thing, of course. The world keeps changing, right? So 80s, we were making cassettes because that's all we could make. And the compact disc came along in the late 70s, and you need a machine worth $1 million to make compact discs. They're quite different to CDRs. The CDR came on the scene in 95, and basically it's the same as a compact disc, except for the fact that it's got a die in it. The problem with that, though, is that the die is not stable. So your average CDR, if you played on a lot, they'd only last a few years. So it's a really shit archiving medium. It's terrible. We moved on to DVD-Rs as well, to store stuff. They were slightly better. And then, of course, memory sticks started coming in, and hard drives started getting cheaper. I can still remember my first 9 gig hard drive cost me $1,200 for a 9 gig hard drive. You can buy a 9 gig stick now for $2. So, and again, memory stick flash drive, that's a temporary step, like a lot of other steps, like DAT was a step, floppies, all that stuff was intermediary. Now we've gone to the online thing, right, the cloud. Well, don't be fooled, the cloud is not a cloud. The cloud is a bunch of friggin' hard drives sitting somewhere in a big service building, and they're going to charge you for access to that equipment, the servers and the like. So the cloud is not a cloud, it's a bunch of hard drives, you know, and everything's got to be backed up, and it all runs on the internet, and the internet arrived in the 90s. It was invented by a technical guy in the military in the States, and he made it shareware. So the internet has become this big shareware realm, you might say, where there's good stuff and bad stuff. And the most recent development has been the big boys, you know, the Googles, the YouTubes, the Spotifys, the iTunes, you know. They have basically monopolised now the whole world with their shareware platforms, right? So YouTube, anybody can load anything up onto YouTube. There goes your chances of making any money in terms of sales, because it's the instant that it's digital, someone can copy it. So, you know, and they can upload it, and sure enough, if they breach the copyright rules, they can be asked to pull it down, but it'll just pop up somewhere else. There are countries on this planet that where there's no rules, you know, like Russia and China. They don't care, you know. I don't know if there's even money in it for them, to be honest. So when it comes to artists, well, there's two things you've got to think about. Am I doing this for money? If you're doing it just for exposure, then hell, it's really easy. Put it up, right? Whether or not everybody will see it is another thing, because there's a million others doing that as well. So putting it up, making it and putting it up is easy. Making money is the trick. So you can load it up onto, say, Bandcamp, and if you try to get a lot of exposure for yourself, you can get exposure by visiting lots of sites and leaving your calling card, your link and whatnot. And if you put it up on Bandcamp and they download it, you get $1 every time somebody downloads the WAV file. So that there are ways and means of making a little bit of money on it. But most of the artists in the new world now, how do they make money? I don't know. Selling T-shirts. You can still sell CDs, of course. Stebbing's still making CDs. Compact disc, proper ones. I've got one on my shelf that's only 2 weeks old. And they're cheaper than everybody and better. So Stebbing Auckland's still making them. Whether or not people can play them is debatable, because you can't buy a hi-fi system with a CD player. You can't buy a car with a CD player. What can you buy that'll play a CD? You have to buy a special CD player with a USB stick on it these days. So CDs are out on the way out. So this is the new medium. This is it. Your pocket computer. It's not a cell phone. It's a pocket computer that has an app on it that permits you to make calls to people, right? But it'll store all sorts of stuff on there, and that's what the children of today use, right? And if you want it to sound good, plug your beautiful Skill Candy earbuds, and it'll sound great, you know? And you can put WAV files on here. WAV files are the equivalent of a CD, right? So you can still get the quality, but when it comes to making money, it's a whole different ballgame. And this is what I always talk to the youngsters about, you know? I want to be an audio engineer, I want to make lots of money. That's a complete fallacy. You know, the only reason that I'm still around is because what else would I do now? But back in the day, I was working 3 jobs, you know. I don't know. It's difficult for the youngsters of today. There's a lot of things up against them, you know. But if you're not interested in the money and you just want to be creative, no better tools than what we've got now. You can learn, you can watch YouTube clips that teach you how to play. You can, you know, we're in an information revolution. And if you want to learn and do stuff and learn skill,
That's much easier than what it used to be. And that skill can make you money. My son was a gamer, still a gamer. Where is he working? In an IT department. Go figure, you know. I never thought the gaming would lead to that, but it has. So it's about skill basis now. I'm sorry if I'm not answering your question very well. Right, yes, okay.
Any other, there's another question over here. Just
Thank you, Arnie. It's been really nice to hear your story. It's so relatable.
Karen?
And I have a question for your interviewer.
Sure.
I'm not sure why and who you are, and bringing Arnie and Al and to be interviewed. What's happening with this interview?
Oh, where am I from? Oh, well, the interviewer gets interviewed. Mike's asked me on board just, I think I've known Mike and Gretchen for a long time. It's their baby. I'm just along for the ride. I seem to be the right person for the job.
He's good
at the time. Oh, I'm Dan Crosser. Did I not say my name at the beginning? Sorry, everyone. I'm Dan. I'm part of the furniture here. Yeah. So, but I'm not the star, of course. I did have a question for all of you, actually. If I can turn it around. Who here, put your hands up if you've been recorded by Arnie? Wow. Look at that. Look at that.
It's a small town. And of course, yeah, these guys have come down because they know me, of course, right? Yeah. Yeah. Who else have I recorded? There's a question. Who else have I recorded?
Oh, no, you haven't recorded me. But
Go on.
That's amazing, everybody in the room. Question is about the new attraction to vinyl. You know, vinyl records seem to be coming back on the scene a bit. And, you know, it sort of begs the question of people wanting something tangible.
Well, it's the same. It's the same as with CDs. It's the same principle, really. I mean, the CD came along after vinyl, and I know because I used to make this stuff, right? The best recording medium ever devised, I'll tell you what it is, and it's not vinyl, right? The reel-to-reel tape recorder. I have a machine in my place. It's so good that it's better than everything in the building. It records tape. The tape flies past the head at 15 inches every second. There's no pixels. It's just pure analog sound. No noise reduction required. When you're using good BASF tape, it's the best thing ever. That's what we made vinyl from. It had to be better than vinyl, right? So then the tape would go to Wellington and they'd make an acetate from it, a big record-like looking thing with about 1/4 of an inch thick. That would be the first cut. So the lathe would come along and do side A, and then they'd take that one away and put another one down, and that would be side B. And those two things together, the side A and side B, would go along to the chemical department, put it in a vat, and they'd settle a metal in there, a liquid metal, in a sort of a vat, and the metal would rest on the grooves of those acetates, and then when they lifted it all out, you got two father plates. They've got ridges instead of grooves. And then the plastic comes along soft, and the father plates come together and make the record. And all the plastic would come out the side, it'd trim off the swarf, and they'd put a label on each side. And that was how they made vinyl. Now, okay, straight off the press, put it on a nice turntable with a really expensive stylus. It's great. But already there's clicks. Why? Because as soon as you've lifted it out of the packet, there's dust in the air. They're a friggin' dust magnet. I kid you not, I had one the other day, someone gave me one and said, can you digitise this? So they took it out of the packet and looked at it and went, oh God, 50 years old, right? And it's not just dust, it's accumulated oxide and all sorts of rubbish all over the grooves, and I'm trying to get it off with some very warm water, carefully, and I'm drying it off,
and the sun's coming in through the window, and I've got a little brush to brush the rest of the dust off, and as fast as I'm dusting it off, the dust's coming around and coming back on it again. And then you put it on your turntable, and you can buy turntables now that have got a USB plug on, by the way. So if you want to do the vinyl thing, you can. You just plug the deck into your lappy and hit go, and it'll play. I think you install a bit of software, but it should just talk straight to your normal software. Anyway, so people give me these records to digitize them, and you know what I have to do? I've got 3 things to say about vinyl: scrape, rumble, click. So one 50-minute record will take me 3 hours to get rid of the flippin' clicks, and then it becomes a digital file. Cassettes, wow, flutter, hiss, right? A good chrome cassette, though, will last for 30 years. Try and do that with vinyl. A good vinyl could last that long too if you don't ever play it. So these media, they were designed for the common man, and they're okay, but they're only short-term things. I took the liberty when I first started making cassettes for people of supplying them all with chrome. I could use normal cassettes or chrome cassettes. There was about 10 cents difference between them. So I thought, to hell with it, I'll just buy chrome. And those chrome cassettes still play now. So they're the best medium ever devised for longevity that I can think of. Why? Because they're enclosed. The oxygen can't get in as much. So they sit in there and they stay good for a long time, no dust, right? So cassettes are pretty cool. But the trouble with cassettes is they run really slow and you lose the top end, and there's other problems with those. So I don't know, vinyl. I'm not convinced. I'd rather have better digital frequencies and sampling rates. Let's up the ante and get better with digital. Trouble is, digital is like cameras, pixels. It's, there's an algorithm joining the dots. It's not pure reproduction like a tape. It's not. So, the best medium is reel-to-reel tape if you can afford it. But it's klutzy and, not easy to use. Yeah.
Why don't we just finish up with that last question? Who else have you recorded? Just names out.
So I started in the 80s, and the first thing that happens is a whole bunch of people who are wannabes, they come along to record some stuff. And Al Park was one of them. He was in a group called Vapor in the Trails, and he's notable around the Christchurch scene. He's been around a long time. The Exponents, when they were school kids, just fresh out of high school, come and do some demos at my place. I've still got that first recording of Victoria that got them the contract with Mushroom. The Netherwheel Dancing Toys, I did all their early stuff. The Bats, of course. Tally-ho. And who else? Oh, the Feelers. Those boys come in again when they were school kids. I'm not that much older than them now. Look at James now. But they're just young when they come in, and they're full of energy and full of brightness, and they're great to work with. I had a lot of fun with those boys, And then now, there's a few of us that are getting on a bit, back catalogue of stuff. Let's do it. So it becomes a bit of a boys' club at my place, doing old songs that they wrote years ago and trying to make them sound better than they did then, and so forth.
Is he like Eddie? Is he in that club, or is he in a different...
Eddie Lowe?
Yeah, is he in a different category, sort of?
Poor old Eddie, he's dying on us, poor old Eddie. Cancer's finally got hold of him. Eddie's been around a long time. He was a big star in the 60s. And he came back from Australia in the early 2000s with his wife. And somebody recommended me to him. And I can still remember the first few sessions. He's, oh yeah, okay, we'll see who this guy is. But then I showed him some of the stuff that I'd been doing, and he went, oh, gee, who are these guys, Some of my session players, Phil Dublé, John Bevan, Todd Jones, Al Olds. There's a new guy on the block now, Mark Newburn. few others, Paddy Long. I was using all these guys, you know. You can have a live band in my studio if you want. You know, I can organise it, but they cost $50 each. So that's $200 an hour off, $250 an hour for those boys. Yeah. But I showed him a record I'd done for someone else, and he said, "Who the hell are these guys?" And I said, "Oh, just mates of mine." Jeez. So we used those boys for a couple of albums, and then he discovered what? YouTube karaoke. You can get the best backing track ever off bloody YouTube now. So we
cheaper.
It's a lot cheaper. I can steal it off YouTube. Yeah. Right? Yeah, so there's a lot of that going on, you know. And now, the next big thing, let me warn you, AI. I'm already using it, by the way.
Yeah.
Ask it for a backing. Tell it what chords you want, what words you're going to use, boom, backing track. There's already a program that's been doing it. One of my good clients who uses a piece of software called Band in a Box. I kid you not, I can't tell that it's not real. It sounds real. Because it is. Because it's basically recordings from the best, chopped up into bits and stuck back together again and using AI. Yeah. Right? That's where we're at. Wow. But hey, there's still plenty of room for expressionism. Yeah. You know, express yourself, be creative by all means. You know, it's a lot of fun.
On that, can we please have a round of applause for Arnie?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for coming out. And thanks to our sponsors again, Lickland Wigram and Monster Music. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you very much. We have a little email list if you'd like to know about upcoming in the spotlights, other people we might interview in the future. Pop your name down on the email list at the door. Otherwise, thank you very much. Have a great night, everyone. And thanks again. Who's on next? I don't know who's on next. I think TBA. Put your name on the email list and you'll be first to know. Probably even before me. Yeah, if you've got any favourites too, actually, you can email them through too. And got any ideas? That's an idea.
David Mitchell, the historian of Christchurch.
Okay, I like it.
Thanks for coming out, guys.
Cheers, guys.